This is Game Changers, and with me tonight is my guest Snuffy Walden. Oh my God, this man can rock and roll. Just before we started, I said, okay, Snuffy, you're gonna play when we snort, Snuffy. And he said, what key would you like me to play it in? And I said, in the key of life. And he said, I played on that album. And I'm like, what? You played on everything.
No, I didn't.
You played on.
I did play on that record though.
You played on everything. Wait, I have to see if we're really on. Christina, are we really on the air?
You were really on.
Is it working? Because it's Mercury retrograde. Hi, Zoe Moon. I love you. And Zoe told me there's like, I don't know. There's challenges.
Zoe.
There's Zoe. Say hi to Zoe.
Hi, Zoe.
So Zoe is my astrologer. Okay. No, but she's like one of my best friends. We're a little blurry. Let's see if that gets better. Oh, you mother. Christina, I think. Oh, it says video was interrupted.
Oh, it says it's still going on here.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Okay.
It says live. Going?
We're live and going?
Yep.
Okay, we're blurry though. Maybe we need it a little less bright. I think we're too bright. Maybe that's why it's blurring out. I don't know. Hello. So we're just doing all the technical stuff.
Yeah, do all the technical
while
stuff.
we're on the
fine.
air. You know,
would you like me to play while you want to do that? I can.
Would you please? So there's Rick Smokey. Rick, hi. Okay, so Rick Smokey.
Hi, Rick.
Rick is my angel. Rick Smokey is a printer in Quick Impressions in Chicago, right?
I saw that.
So Rick made these, and he made these because when Mackenzie Phillips came to read for us. Do you know Mackenzie?
No.
Did you know her father?
No.
Okay.
No, who he is.
Yeah. So anyway, she wrote a book about that relationship, which you might know was a little, yeah. So we were crying when she read, and so Rick used to make us all this swag. Always made us pads and calendars and all kinds of stuff. So they said, well, why don't you have him make us some tissue boxes? And he's a smarty pants because he figured out a way to do it. He figured out a way to do it. And he's made my bookmarks, and he's made my business cards.
I don't have any of these.
I'll
get some later.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, if you need anything snuffied, he will snuffy you up. He will snuffy anything you want.
You know, I'd like a guitar.
I don't know if he can snuffy a guitar. Rick, can you snuffy a guitar?
Please.
Yeah, he might be able to do it. He can do everything. He can make a tissue box. He might be able to.
He might be able to.
He might be able
Cardboard
to.
guitar.
He might be. Look, look how much love and happiness we're
Is that all
getting
love
here.
and happiness?
That's love and happiness. I think there was one angry face. They were going to say, hey, Vicki, shut up and let
That
Snuffy
was my
talk.
mother.
That's
No.
like, let Snuffy talk. But I want to say hi to Fred before we get any further.
Fred?
Fred's a friend of yours. I don't know what I saw.
Fred. Hey, Fred. How are you, buddy?
So
Fred Heather.
I saw him. Oh, yeah. So I saw him on the thread, Fred. And so I'm saying, hey to Fred.
Hey, Fred.
Fred on the thread.
Say hi to your mom. He's got the sweetest mom.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, he is very sweet. He drives all the way from Arizona to come see us play.
Where? Like how? He drives from Arizona to where?
To L.A.
To L.A.
When I play live, yeah. Very sweet. And
What's-
brings his mom after.
Where in Arizona does he live? Because I went to school.
Tucson?
In
Am I right?
I went to college in Tucson. Hey, Fred. Maybe I know you.
Fred's a teacher, so he may know you.
I
Careful.
was a teacher. I taught high school drama for like 5 minutes.
Is this what we're doing?
Yeah. So
This is the show, right?
You're
Now you're
gonna
going to hit me with something.
So, because I want to give some love to Nicole Venables, my hairdresser, who deserves love, and I just went on Saturday.
And your hair was
Looks beautiful.
Thank you. She's
Except there's feathers in it.
well, that's not her fault. But there is also hairspray in it, and my hairspray is called Fuck Off. And that's Nicole Venables of the Ruby Begonia Salon. And you can get her products at either the Ruby Begonia Salon or at Fred's.
It really is called that.
It is called Fuck Off. And you can get it at friendsbeautysupply.com or at the Ruby Begonia Salon, and you can get Nicole.
And there's a heart for the youth. That's
There
really
is.
cute.
It's very she is such a cute woman. She is such a cute woman. Okay, now we can talk about you.
All right, we don't want to talk about it.
And happy
We're going to
Thanksgiving.
argue about it.
All right, wait.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Hi, Christina behind the camera.
Hi.
Hi,
Christina Guzman. Yes, who is my? Oh, we're a little blurry today. Look at that.
That's
Oh,
all right.
Facebook is
Makes me
killing.
look young.
The soft focus does help.
It really
The
works.
soft focus does help, I gotta say, but I don't like that when Facebook does that. See, Fred's here. Look, he said he will. He's gonna say hi to his mom.
Aw,
He already told us
love
that.
your mom.
And so Steve Howard's here, and Michael Murata. Michael Murata, one of my oldest friends, is on here. We worked at Maxwell's Point together many years ago. Pete George, responsible for
Pete.
Pete's
Pete's
responsible.
the reason we came over here in the first place.
That's right. And
Hey,
Pete,
Pete.
makes this fabulous. He was upset. Ooh, see, I'm all tangled, and now I'm gonna get crazy because I'm gonna remember that I'm all tangled.
Stop.
But what
Stop,
Pete,
stop,
see this
leave,
necklace?
leave,
He
leave.
wants you to have one, and he was upset that he didn't give me one for you.
Really?
But yeah, would you wear
With a
this?
guitar? Yes.
Okay, so Pete, you know what? I'm gonna take this necklace off after the show, and I'm gonna give it to Snuff.
No.
'Cause if I take it off now, I'm gonna choke myself. No, because he's gonna give me another one for me, right, Pete? He will. So, so who else? Okay, so Phil Isaacson. Hi, Phil. I'm saying hello to everybody I can see. Jonathan Coogan. So Jonathan forever too.
Hi,
Okay.
John.
Jonathan is Jackie Coogan's grandson. Remember Jackie Coogan? He was,
Sure.
yeah. So he's responsible for the whatever that law is. Is it called the Coogan Law?
Coogan Law. For young kids
Young
in this
kid,
film. Yeah.
his whatever he was to him.
You know, somebody left my record label because of that law. So
Wait, what?
we have words.
What do you mean?
I have a record label, Keep Your Soul Records.
Okay.
I've had for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And there was a 13-year-old girl or 16-year-old girl that we signed, and in the end, they left the label and quoted that law. Because
Were you being abusive to her?
No,
You would never do that.
that was my ex-partner, and I'm not going to get into that.
Okay. So the Coogan Law was used against you.
Against-
Oh, so Jonathan, you're not too popular around here today. So, okay, so Snuffy.
Yes.
You know, I don't know how it is even possible that until 3 weeks ago I had no fucking idea who you were.
Really?
No clue. But now.
I was Sarah's guitar player.
But now, no, before you came,
No.
I got educated. And by the way, this show, did you know about this, Christina? Somebody last week coined, they said that, no, we talked about this with Jimmy Vivino last week, that this show is edutainment. Edutainment
I
because...
thought it was Game Changers. I was
Well,
booked for Game Changers. I wasn't booked for
That's next
edutainment.
door.
But Game Changers is edutainment because you learn things and you get
Yeah.
entertained.
Wow.
So it's
a whole new level.
it's an amazing thing. So anyway, it's beyond my comprehension that I did not know who you were because I like to think that I have a little bit of musical, but I knew nothing. But what shocked me even more than all the composing that you've done was that you were a rock star, and in the vein that I am of a huge fan. You have to play something.
Let's
in a minute.
say I was a rock guy.
You were such. Wait, did you just see the picture?
I did.
Wow. So like wow. All right. So, so Snuffy was in a band called Stray Dog, and so before we get to Stray Dog, though, so tell me, you're a kid in Texas. You were born in Louisiana, though.
Yeah.
But you didn't stay
You
there.
read the bio.
I did read the bio. So, but you didn't stay in Louisiana.
No, I left there when I was a year and a half
Okay, so you're in Texas,
old.
and what does that look like when you're a little kid?
Well, I'm a little kid. I was kind of raised a little bit up until 2nd grade in Houston, and then we moved to a ranch in East Texas where my grandfather lived, and I kind of grew up there until my
On a
folks
ranch.
on a ranch, riding horses bareback and
Wow.
you know.
So
and cows.
so there's money in your back. So you weren't a poor kid.
No, my grandfather was in the oil business, so there was money. There was money around,
Wow.
and
Wow. So you could
Yeah.
buy all the drugs you wanted.
yeah, no, I didn't get the money.
Mm.
After I started doing drugs, I was disowned.
Oh, okay.
They got me out of the picture. No, but I grew up. When I was 5. I started playing. And kinda
Okay,
played
so
a lot of
how
different
did
things.
that happen?
My parents gave me a Hawaiian steel guitar when I was 5.
I don't know what a Hawaiian steel
It
guitar
sits
is.
in your lap and you play it with a metal bar.
Is it
It's
like a
like
dobro?
It's like a dobro, but it's flat. But it's but they're made in Hawaii, so it's Hawaiian steel. It's all that aloha Hawaii.
Did you know how to do that?
Well, not very well. 'Cause
Oh,
I-
so that's why you're really good on the slide. The slide guitar is my thing. It's my favorite
Don't
thing.
start, don't
The
start.
slide guitar is my. Did you bring a slide?
I didn't bring a slide.
Ooh,
No,
but I
didn't.
must have something you can use. I know you guys are very resourceful.
Then
Ooh.
fuck you, Bob. Then fuck off or whatever.
We'll get to
I
that.
can play with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
good.
so
that's what he said.
I played guitar for a while, and then
But
I
you played
piano.
this kind of.
Yeah, I played. I
And
never
so
picked
how-
up this way. But when I was 5, I used to take a broom and tie a string around it, and put it around my neck, and play, Jailhouse
Okay,
Rock,
so
all the
was
Presley
so
songs.
Elvis was your hero?
Elvis was big.
Who else? Because Christina actually asked me, I think, before the show, who your influences were, and I assumed like Hendrix and things, and then or somebody asked me that this afternoon, and we're not of a far enough generation away. Like, so who are your heroes?
Once I started playing guitar,
Mhm.
I mean, you know, first I started playing when I was about 13, just pre-Beatles, playing electric guitar.
Yeah.
And so Chet Atkins and guys like that,
Mhm.
and the Ventures. So you know, that was all the stuff I heard.
Right.
And then the Beatles happened, and then it was the Animals and the Beatles, and then much farther along the line after that, maybe another 3 or 4 years,
Mhm.
we got Hendrix and Cream, and I was lost.
Okay, so before, and you play very much in that vein. So before, okay, so you're 5, you're playing this, and you play a little piano.
Mhm.
Although I seem to recall, I've seen the documentary. So Snuffy is the subject of a documentary called Up to Snuff, which has won 21 awards. It's
Wow.
been in 68 film festivals. It's going to drop in the spring. It, having gotten to see in advance copy, thank you very much, Mark Maxey, who is the director, for the filmmaker, first-time filmmaker, right?
Yeah, first time.
An amazing job. It's an incredible film. It's really, and the things that people say about you, it's like it's like, okay, I am not worthy. It's like you are like a deity to these people. No, on this thing, Aaron Sorkin speaks of you like you are the messiah of music.
I've worked with Aaron for a long time.
And Timothy Busfield could not have said nicer things about you.
Timothy I've worked with since my first television.
And Martin Sheen kind of likes you a lot.
Martin's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Tom Arnold, who, you know, well, Tom's a little trippy.
There's a story there.
Yeah, he's a little trippy. But you helped him with all of his wives, as he said.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's a wonderful documentary, and I learned quite a bit about you. But for the people out there who don't know all the stuff, but there's stuff on there we didn't that I don't know about you yet. So you're playing guitar. What's your first band like?
First band was The Showman.
Okay.
My brother was playing bass.
Yeah.
It was me on guitar. We had a drummer named Luke Stungus, and a friend of mine who I think's here actually, Tommy, who we called Turkey, played Hammond.
There's Turkey and Snuffy.
Yeah, there's Turkey
This
and
is a
Snuffy.
great band. Oh, we have to talk about the name. All
I
right.
know Tommy was on because I saw some post a little while ago
Okay.
from his brother from running, and so it was Tommy Richards.
Okay.
And we had this little combo, and we played the Tiki Lounge down in Clear
At
Creek.
13,
Yeah, about
they
13.
served booze and
Ninth
you were
grade.
allowed to play?
No, they
No.
didn't serve booze. It was
Oh.
a teen.
Oh.
It was a Quonset hut, you know, that you paid 50 cents to get in, and everybody would dance and boogaloo. We had a guy named Butch Dotson who was a neighbor of mine, and he was in the band primarily because he could drive. He was about 5 years
16.
older than me. He was about 20.
Ooh.
You know, and he would play tambourine with the band.
He's 20 and he's playing with 13-year-olds?
Well, he had a rough time getting out of high school. Right, Butch? It's a true story. My friend Butch would agree. So we had this band, The Showman, and then my brother and I went on and did a couple of records under different names.
Look at them, and I'll look at you. So yeah, I mean you can kind of sneak
But I
and
don't
look at me,
see them.
but they're there. Look at Christina.
So my brother and I had a few bands, and we recorded
Dougie.
our Doug,
Yeah.
my brother Doug, and we recorded our first record when I was 14.
How did that happen?
My grandfather paid for the label, so
Wow.
my grandfather had the money, so he made a label on his own name, and we recorded.
What was that called?
It was I think PSY 123 because we were psychedelic, and we did "Baby Let Me Take You Home" and "Bald Headed Woman." We covered an Animal song and a Kinks song,
Nice.
and I sang.
Well, you sang
It was
for
my
quite.
singing debut.
You sang quite a bit. You sang on Stray Dog too.
Yeah, sort of.
No, sort of a lot.
Sort of.
Sort of great.
We're
So.
going to argue a lot tonight about her opinion of what I've done and her opinion
And
compared
his
to
op-
my opinion.
Yeah, but my opinion's right.
Oh, it's your show. You can do it.
So all right, let's get to the name because we got to get to the name. So Snuffy. I mean, come on. So how did that happen?
I don't know.
No,
It just
I know
appeared.
I know you know.
No, I was born William Garrett Walden, and my mom's maiden name was Garrett. And in the South, the biggest manufacturer of snuff, which is powdered tobacco, is a company called Levi Garrett and Son. So my granddad and my mom were always nicknamed Levi or Snuffy.
Your
And-
mother was called Snuffy? A woman
Well,
named
it was
Snuffy?
a joke.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
it was Texas.
Okay.
A bunch of rednecks. God
Okay.
bless us all. But So they were nicknamed that a little bit, and
Yeah.
then I picked it up when I was 5 at a coeducational camp that I went to, and they said, we can't call you Garrett, that's too formal, so we'll call you Snuffy. And then Snuffy, I would just Snuffy during the summer, and I was always Garrett in school. All my Clear Creek friends will remember me as Garrett, and then music kind of took over the summers, and music took over what I do.
So did you know,
just
like,
stuck.
when you were really little, what was the first thing you wanted to be when you grew up?
Doctor.
Okay, wow. So what was that about? Why?
I don't know. I think it was because I wanted people to feel better. I wanted to help.
Yeah.
And
I
you
think
still
that's
do.
just
That's kind of who you are.
yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't change much. I haven't grown much, have I? still that 5-year-old kid
Oh, I think
banging away.
I think you're doing okay.
Okay.
So Snuffy. So the name stuck.
Yeah, and it stuck. In the music business, it stuck. And I never changed it legally, but it's on everything, every document, it's on my license, on my passport.
So what did your mom call you?
Garrett.
She called
It
you
was
Garrett.
always Garrett.
And to your family, your extended family, or
I was all Garrett up
Garrett.
until I left high school.
and now does everybody call you Snuffy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do you think of yourself? You are to yourself
Yeah.
Snuffy? Yeah.
I'm not Garrett. Garrett's a little kid in the picture that I have framed
Yeah.
when I have to work on my inner child. The little picture frame of the 5-year-old in there. Yeah, you have one.
I have one. There's one of me.
Inner child work.
There's one of me in the corner. So you wanted to be a doctor, and when did you realize that this little thing you were doing with music was maybe more than just a hobby?
When I got out of high school,
Mhm.
I had 3 jobs. I was going to college.
Mhm.
I was an FM underground disc jockey.
Which he's totally got the voice for. You can totally tell.
Mhm.
That's like a
Right.
DJ.
Hi, this is J.A. Lawrence with KRP. I did all that.
You got that going.
And I would have, sometimes I would work in the mornings for the housewife show, or sometimes I would work at 2 in the morning with the FM Underground playing Mothers of Invention and the Fugs, and it was a little radio station at that time called KRBE, which is a huge radio station in Houston now. And I was playing in a strip joint, playing guitar in a strip joint.
Okay, so what was that about?
The strip joint was a club called The Cellar, where all the waitresses wore bra and panties, and they served fake booze. So if you went in there and got a bourbon and Coke, you got a Coke with some bourbon flavoring in it. And the girls, if they wanted to make more money, would strip. And when you're in the band, if some girl started stripping, you weren't allowed to stop playing. If you stopped playing, you were fired and barred. So it was great. So you just had to improvise all the time if somebody was up stripping. So
So you couldn't stop playing between songs, you mean?
you couldn't stop playing. If she's up there, period. You just keep playing until she's done and gets off the stage.
Wow.
You don't stop and start another song. You just improvise.
Okay, wow.
And it's really where all the great musicians that came out of Houston and Fort Worth and Dallas, there was 3 of them, one in Fort Worth, one in Dallas, and one in Houston. And everybody played there.
Really?
Everybody from Billy Gibbons to Johnny Winter to,
Wow.
everybody went through there some way or the other. And there were great musicians there that never got out of Texas. Bugs Henderson was one of the most amazing guitar players. He never got out. He passed away not too long ago. There was a lot of guys who were just cellar rats. And it was an amazing time. And it was paid
So what
10,
kind of
12
stuff
bucks a night.
what are you playing there?
Played blues.
Can you play us something? Come on, just play us something. You can't. I can't sit there and stare at your
God.
guitar all night. Goddamn it! You gotta play something. Just pretend that Christina's taking her clothes off.
That wouldn't happen.
So now, would you guys just like you just
just
follow
keep-
you just
you just
follow
don't
each
stop.
other
Yeah,
and you just improvising?
You just
and
improvise and
go.
play. But it was great for everybody's chops because, we'd be playing, you might be playing a Doors song,
Yeah.
Love me 2 times, and all of a sudden some girl gets up to make some money and you're like, okay, how do we make this 14 minutes long?
What? And they would strip for that long? As long as the dollar bills last.
Remember, I was drunk.
Yeah.
They also served. They didn't serve real booze to the patrons,
Okay.
but they had something called a special that they gave to us, which was Everclear and grapefruit juice.
Oh my gosh.
And it
Oh.
turned bright green under the black lights because there were black lights everywhere.
Right.
And we would drink that, and it was just awful.
Mm.
But you know, it's the only thing you could do. If you did drugs, they fired and barred you. They might break your legs.
Whoa.
But if you got caught dealing drugs or anything, they'd take you out in the back and break your legs. It was rough, and it was.
It was like a Texas mafia?
It was like kind of like a Texas mafia. I mean, they had a $1 million. They had a sign on the front that said, "Entrance $1 million." And if anybody racial, anybody brown or black came to the door, they'd say, "Okay, you got $1 million. You can come in."
Oh, stop.
They were just
Oh.
awful. No,
Oh.
There were no Hispanics allowed, no blacks.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was real seedy.
This
It was
is
real
the
seedy.
late 60s?
Late 60s.
Mhm.
But it had been going on since the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Cellars went on until probably late 70s, probably. There's a documentary on the Cellar out.
Really? And so how'd you get the hell out of there?
See, now I'm playing.
Yeah,
I'll
just
put the
you
guitar
can.
down.
No, you can noodle. You can noodle all you want.
Okay.
How'd you get out of there?
I got out of there, you know, I had a bunch of different bands, and I ended up, this is funny, a buddy of mine who just passed away was my roadie. I was so broke, we were living in the park, but I had a roadie. And he carried my guitar in the park. And
He
we were
was
eating,
broker than you were.
but I would make sure we had cans of beans and stuff like that to eat. We lived
How
there
long were you living in the
a
park?
couple of months, and then I got a job with
Where'd you
these
show
old
up?
guys, wherever you could. It was not pretty.
Oh.
But you know, I've done the
How old?
cellar. Oh, that's interesting. 19.
And is this happening because you're a drunk?
No,
No.
I wasn't really a drunk then. I mean,
Okay.
you know, it was a lot of psychedelics, a lot of all that stuff. But I don't know how we ended up living in the park. We just did, and we ate beans, and it was great. And I played, and he thought I was great, and so he was going to be there for me till I made it. And
Did he stay with you till you made it?
he didn't. But we ended up with two bikers as managers. Really, it's truly a Satan slave and a Hell's Angel, Moose and Tank. These two huge guys, and I bet they're out there somewhere. Moose, Tank, find me. Last thing I heard, Moose was wanted for murder, so he was somewhere. But
Wow.
we needed equipment, and when we needed equipment, they would go knock over a music store, get us gear.
Holy, you had to do some heavy amends in your life.
I never made amends for that.
Oh, okay,
I
well,
gotta
we'll be
think
talking about
it.
your
Okay,
next
we'll
night.
be another fourth step.
Well, so I haven't mentioned it. For those of you who don't know, Snuffy is a sober man. How many years sober?
36.
36 years sober. But before that, and I'm a sober woman, so I wouldn't bring it probably up if I wasn't. But so we'll talk about the debauchery as it comes up. So you're living in the park. You're not particularly a drunk. You're kind of doing psychedelics, smoking some
No,
pot.
I got this. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
smoking some
yeah.
pot.
Doing whatever. We were trash cans, but
Okay.
we didn't have the money to really get out there.
Okay.
And I was in a band called the Grits.
Okay.
That was the band I was actually in before I lived in the park. The Grits was a 4-piece band with a girl drummer.
That's so cool.
Linda Waring, who played for years with Johnny Singer and Blood Rock and all these
Nice.
different people. And I first toured with her when I was 14. She
You
and I
toured-
did a
wait,
tour with
you
BJ
toured-
Thomas.
How were you doing that when you were 14?
Long story, but
I love BJ
he had a local hit called
Yeah.
Billy and Sue.
Okay.
And he needed a band to back him up in Louisiana.
Uh-huh.
And so we were supposed to learn his songs, and we did. We learned his
How
songs.
did he find you at 14?
Some booking agent put us together in Houston. So I was just playing in just a little club band, and they had lost their guitar player, so they asked me to come and play with them. And then, so the next thing you know, we're out with BJ Thomas, and he won't rehearse with us. So we learn all his songs, and we got him kind of down. And he walks on stage, and goes, "Barefootin', 2, 3, 4," and we just all stand there. Nobody learned barefootin'. And so we limped our way through 3 or 4 days.
Oh. How old was he when you were 14?
BJ's about 5 years older than me, I guess.
So he was kind of a kid too.
Maybe he's 6 years older than me.
Okay.
He was in his maybe in his 20s,
Uh-huh.
but he had a local hit, and then
So
Red
because he had a
Cross.
local hit, he's too big to rehearse with you. Is that the deal?
I didn't say that. Hi, BJ. How's it going, buddy?
Wow. Okay.
Actually, it went full circle because in the end, fast forward to
Yeah.
Sarah. Sarah did her first, was
Sarah
first
Nimitz.
on stage.
Yeah.
Sarah Nimitz, this young gal I work with.
Nimitz. I said it wrong. Okay. Yeah.
That's it. And she was on stage the very first time at 4 years old with BJ. And then the full turnaround was she ended up going and we went to Nashville and did Grand Ole Opry with him, and she did a record with him.
And did he
20 years
remember?
later. Oh yeah, he remembered all that. He didn't remember my band, but but we laughed about it a lot.
Okay, that's good.
He remembers he had a lot of crappy bands before he got a hit.
So we'll Hooked on a Feeling is the first thing I remember of his.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was,
he had a song called Billy and Sue, and I couldn't play it for you.
So okay, so we'll.
Are we skipping around?
And
Do
we-
you
no,
want, do you want
it's-
something linear?
No, yeah, no, we're going to get to Sarah in a bit because we are being a little linear. So okay, so you're 14, you're playing with BJ, then you have this band,
Called The Grits.
the Grits.
And we played at what was now Armadillo headquarters, what was in the Vulcan Gas Company, and we played with the 13th Floor Elevators and, you know, Lightning Hopkins and all those people.
And you're playing guitar. Are you singing in this
guitar
band?
players. Yeah,
Yeah.
guitar player. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother ended up coming into the band later, and then
Okay.
it broke up because we were just doing too much acid and stuff. And that's when I ended up in the park.
Okay. So how'd you get out of the park?
I got out of the park, I met these two older guys. They must have been 25 or 26. And they played in show bands. And they wanted to put a rock band together. So they ended up dragging me out of the park, and we moved. We put this band together called the Silver Spoon in Houston, and we moved to Memphis. And just took off, and we were like this great Texas band. But these guys were, you know, they were accustomed to playing all the big horn band. They were like horn band. A bass player and a drummer, and we went out as a trio and went to Memphis and tried to get a record deal. Wrote one tune that Johnny Winter recorded called "The Good Love."
Let's hear a little.
I'm not going to play it.
Oh, come on.
I'm not going to play it
Why?
because I haven't played it
Okay.
in years.
Okay.
It's a lot of years.
Okay.
Wrote this song for Johnny, and a guy named Dennis Crash Collins was the bass player, and he went on to be a huge DJ in Houston. And Phil Mathis, the drummer, I still haven't been able to find.
Oh, well, maybe
And
he's out there.
we worked together for a long time, and then I got real sick, and
What kind of real sick?
I got hepatitis. I went back to the cellar and got hepatitis there, and they told me then. I went in the hospital for about a week and a half, and they told me when I got out, they said, you know, you can never be in the music business again.
Because?
Because if you go back out there and drink, you'll die. Because your liver is so screwed up.
Okay, so you were already drinking massive amounts?
Yeah. Drinking a lot.
So how did that, because the whole addiction recovery thing is interesting to me, how did your addiction amp up? How did the alcoholism amp up? When did it amp up?
It got worse in England. But the story is, I went in the hospital and I came out and got a job at a music store. And I was just miserable. And I said, I'd rather die than do this. And so I moved to Colorado and stayed in bed 6 days a week to go out and play 1 gig a week with the band.
Because you were so sick?
Because I was sick. And then I got better and better and better. And that band was Aphrodite. And that band is the band that Emerson, Lake and Palmer discovered that brought us to England.
Okay, so how did they discover you?
We were playing at this little 3-2 bar in Denver. And the whole road group came in one night after ELP had played at the Coliseum. And they just fell in love with us. They said, we're going to come back after the tour and make you guys huge. And we went, right, yeah, we've heard all this before, have another beer. And they did. They came back, and they booked every one of our gigs for the next 6 months as the last gig before their European tour. And all these people came out of the woodwork, and they got us amp endorsements and PA endorsements.
Okay, so what was Aphrodite? Who was in Aphrodite?
Well, it was originally a 3-piece that I joined
Okay.
as a second guitar player.
So it became a 4-piece,
And it
okay.
became a 4-piece, and then the other guitar player, a young guy, great guitar player, Robbie Frogger, left. And we were a trio, and that's when Emerson, Lake and Palmer's folks came across us.
So Aphrodite became Stray Dog, but it's the same
Ultimately,
guys?
except for we changed the drummer. When we went to England and finally started working with Greg Lake, he said, I love you, Snuffy. The drummer doesn't kill me, and if you want to sign to the label, we'll sign you, but not with this band. So I had to go back to the little 3-flight flat we were living in and say, guys, here's what the offer is. The offer is either me or none of us, And the drummer was great. He said, you got to do it.
What about the bass player?
Bass player I kept.
You were able to keep.
And we went all around England and then all around America and finally found an English drummer. He was playing with Noel Redding from Hendrix's band and a guy named Les Sampson. So we got Les, and that's how we formed Stray Dog.
And so Stray Dog, I do not know how I did not know of you guys, because I have
We didn't
not.
sell a lot of records.
I have not stopped listening. Yeah, but you have rabid fans. I mean, the people who knew you guys are like.
We
wow.
had a cult following. We weren't songwriters. The songs weren't great.
They were pretty damn good.
Well, yeah, if you get to,
Yeah, they're pretty good.
we stole a few.
So tell the story of Crazy, because I corrected somebody on the thread.
Yes, on the thread.
Somebody on the thread said that what was the band who
Jerry Williams Group.
No. After that, who was?
Oh, Blood Rock.
Okay, so he said Blood Rock. The guy from Blood Rock wrote it, and I corrected him and said no. Escarrot is Snuffy.
Well, actually, Jerry never got credit on either one of those recordings. Jerry Williams, who was one of the best songwriters I ever met in Texas, he wrote a ton of stuff for Clapton, and he's just a phenomenal songwriter. I was in a band with Randy Cates and Linda Waring, this girl drummer again,
Fabulous.
and Jerry Williams. And Jerry was a rhythm guitar player, and I was a lead guitar player, and
What band?
he
What was
wrote
that
this
called?
song one day. That was called the Jerry Williams Group.
Okay.
And I was only in them for a little while. That's when I got hepatitis. That's why I didn't. They ended up going out to the West Coast and doing a record. I ended up having to stay in Fort Worth. It's really weird to put all this time together.
How old are you?
How old am I then? 20?
Okay.
20. And I'm playing with Jerry, and he wrote this song, Crazy About You Baby. And it,
Yeah, you gotta.
yeah, well, anybody who knows it. I won't sing it. Just nasty rock and roll
It is
stuff.
such a dirty rock and roll song.
But the funny thing about it is Blood Rock did it, and they changed the lyric from the original, because we never recorded the original, we just played it live. And Randy Cates and I got credit for writing it on the Blood Rock record. And then when I did the Stray Dog record, I had to rewrite the lyrics, because I knew what the chorus was, but I didn't know what the lyrics were. So I rewrote the lyrics, and not Billy Gibbons, but Jerry was supposed to get credit on that, and nobody else was credited on that record but us. So that was a mistake. But Crazy was originally written by Jerry, then Blood Rock rewrote it, and I rewrote it.
Does Jerry remember his original lyrics?
Jerry's gone.
Oh, okay.
Jerry died about 5 years ago.
But he knew that you had re-recorded it, and was he upset that he didn't get the credit on it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
He's good friends with my brother. I didn't see Jerry a lot. He was just a brilliant songwriter, but one of us, and lived in Texas. And
One of us means that he was probably a drunk.
had drug and alcohol issues, and
Yeah.
I think that's what killed him. His liver gave out. But
So-
he's a brilliant songwriter, and a great singer. I'll play you some records sometime.
Okay, cool. So you go out on this tour. You become Stray Dog.
Is it always normally like this on your things? Because
It is, right,
is
Christina?
this just kind of stream of consciousness?
That's what it is.
You don't have to follow us.
No,
whatever
Don't
feels
take
good.
notes.
Can you
We'll
guys?
get
All right.
back
So
to
you guys out there, let's see who's out there. Do you guys out there? Do you know what we're talking about? Is this like Rick just joined? Rick, you just joined because we were talking about you before, and Snuffy said hi. Say hi to Rick.
Hi, Rick.
Okay, there you go. He said so. He just said hi, Snuffy. Hi, yeah. So oh, that was actually a long time ago. Fred's doing a lot of talking here. I don't know what he's saying.
Fred Tosser.
The Wonder Years. We're not up to the Wonder Years yet. We'll get there. I promise we'll get there. Music by they're talking soundtracks. We're not up to the soundtracks yet. We're talking rock and roll now. He is hot.
Who is
Somebody you are. Tina Ferry says he is
Hi,
hot.
Christina.
He is hot. I agree.
Don't go there.
You're not going to get any argument from me. Fred's saying a lot of stuff here. Hi, Mitch. Mitch Weissman is the original fake Paul.
Fred, condense it.
Mitch, a very old friend of mine, the original fake Paul in Beatlemania on Broadway and the film.
Is he on?
So yeah, he's watching, and John Green and Pete's watching. Hi, and Peg, and I'm saying hi to everybody, and they're all talking, and I don't know what they're saying because I'm not going to read the things now. But okay, so Stray Dog, you have to tell the Stray Dog story about what happened to you when you're out in the middle of it. You have to tell the story. Okay.
Stray Dog, we were touring, we were doing a world tour. We got pulled out of the studio doing our first record because Emerson, Lake and Palmer was going on a tour. They were doing the Brain Salad Surgery Tour.
I definitely saw you.
Definitely saw
it's
me.
too freaky.
But we were doing this, they were going around the world, and since I was signed to their label and I was signed as an artist, we opened for them. My trio opened for Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So it was two trios, one blues-based trio and then a classical-based trio. So we were touring with them all around Europe, and we came back and mixed the record, and barely got it out, and came to America, and we were playing in Detroit in Cobo Hall, 20,000 seater, and I had this brilliant idea, a few gigs before that, to put a really long cable together and go have a mic stand in the middle of the Coliseum where I would jump off the stage and run out playing with, as they
Were
say.
you naked at the time?
No, don't start.
I heard you used to play naked, but we'll talk about that. Yeah.
No, but I just ran out to the middle of to the stage, and I'm just burning away. I'm tearing it up, and I get almost to the microphone, and the band stopped playing, and the guitars are wailing, and as I almost get to the microphone, a guy stands up to go to the bathroom and steps on the cable. And it was one of those curly cables, and there were about 10 of them all hooked together, and it just snapped and went zing to the stage in this big pile. And all you could hear was the sound of my amp going, and this is in the documentary, but Tristan Bowden loves to say, people just started going, boo! It was the most humiliating moment of my life. And I was standing there with no sound, spotlights on me, 20,000 people, and they're starting to boo. So I just kept playing. Now you can't hear anything, but I'm walking back to the stage, and I get to the stage, and it's about this tall, so I can't get up. And all of a sudden, my bass player is punching all my buttons because I had tape echo units where I would record a solo and then I would kick it back at the end of a song.
Right.
So I'd be playing rhythm and there'd be two guitars playing.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, I'm standing there about to put my guitar up and my guitar starts playing. And then people are really booing. And I was so humiliated.
You are vanilla guitar, yeah.
And I just walked out the exit to the side of the stage.
No, you didn't.
I did. I just walked, and I went backstage, and 10 minutes later I came back on, but...
What'd they do for 10 minutes?
Bass solo.
In those days, you could do a 10-minute bass solo. Oh my God.
So that's all they could do until I got back on.
Oh my God. So
humiliating moments in the life of W.G. Snuffy Walden.
Okay, so you're a pretty young guy. You're playing in venues for 20. What is that like the first time you walk out and you're playing for? Because you went from being like a bar band kind of guy in clubs to this 20,000 seat arena. What is that like?
We played as much as 50,000 in Europe.
Okay, so
outdoor football stadium.
So what the first time you do that, what is that like?
Oh, it's a buzz you can't believe. It's just like a rush.
I can't.
But the hard thing for me, you asked about this a minute ago, where did the drinking really get bad? Mm-hmm. The drinking really got bad then because what happened was I didn't feel like I deserved to be playing in front of 50,000 people.
Oh.
I was trying, but I had a lot of insecurity about it. So what would happen was I would drink more and feel worse about myself. And as that happened, more and more happened, I was living in the middle, in the hole in my life. And I was constantly trying to fill that hole. So by the time I got signed to Emerson...
Were you in awareness of this as it was happening? I'm guessing not.
No,
yeah.
No
okay.
awareness of it. This is retrospect.
Right.
But I was living I was living in this beautiful home where I had road crew and all that stuff, and I'd never made a record. I would just spend an ELP's money. They were just throwing money at us. And so I was
It
living
was
like a
before
king.
you made the record.
Right, before I made the record.
Okay.
All I would do all day long is sit and smoke hash and play guitar in front of the television. You know, and probably which had a lot to do with my scoring career. Who knows? But,
Well, it came in handy.
yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So that's when the drinking really got bad.
Mm-hmm. And so, how did the drinking what did that look like? So, because you had to go out there and you had to do your gig, and did you wait till after you were done?
I didn't drink much before. I would do some
Blow.
some powder, some dry goods,
Yes.
and a little, have a shot or two, but just to get in a space. I would never be out of control performing.
Mm-hmm.
It was too important to me.
Mm-hmm.
But afterwards, all bets were off. So
And
afterwards, who knows?
were you blackout drunk?
Yes.
So you would find out the next day what you did?
Well, I know what you're getting to it. I know, yes.
So tell us about that.
Tell us about the blackout drinking.
Tell us about the blackout drinking, Snuffy.
All right.
Give us a story.
I would drink. No, I'm not going to tell any sordid stories, but
Okay.
I would drink until I blacked out, and then I'd get up the next morning, and people would say, "Do you know what you did last night?" And it was the worst thing in the world because I got that 3 or 4 times a week,
Ooh.
and I would,
Were you feeling like crap every day? I mean, you didn't feel like crap when you woke up in the morning? Really?
No, we were 21, 22. We were young kids. You could do anything.
Yeah, I guess that's
You
it.
could really bounce back. And I don't, it was on the road where I was really bad. I mean, at home, I didn't, we'd go out to the pub, and something, but I wasn't a blackout drinker every night.
Mm-hmm.
But on the road, it got worse and worse. And I felt, we were sometimes getting great responses. We were sometimes getting, in Paris, they threw fruit at us.
No, why did they throw fruit at you?
Because
You
we
were the
were doing a
opening
live radio show. We were an
Oh.
opening act.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy came on in French and said, don't be too hard on him. We have this little band opening tonight.
Oh.
Stray Dog. That's what he said. I didn't know what he was saying. And the curtains opened and people started throwing fruit.
That's the kiss of death. It's like telling kids that they're getting a substitute teacher.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
It's like, no.
These people don't count. Just
Yeah, right.
be nice to them. Yeah,
Be
fuck
a
you.
little nice to him. I didn't think he said be nice. So we had mixed reviews. The band was great. But I said we weren't songwriters. What we did is we wrote songs to hang our playing on. It was really about the instrumental. It was that, and we just kind of sang songs so that we'd have someplace to put a solo.
You had some pretty good songs. I'm pretty much loving
We
the
did all
songs. I'm loving the songs, but what I'm loving more than the songs.
But they weren't pop songs. They weren't hit songs. They weren't radio songs.
They were rocks. They were rock.
Yeah, but
They
radio
were
wasn't
dirty
doing
rock and
that.
roll. It was excellent. But album rock was what I was listening to then because there was album rock radio.
Then why didn't you buy our record?
Yeah, because I didn't even know. Because Pete Fornatale wasn't playing here. I'm listening to WNEW-FM and all day long, and I didn't hear Straight Up. I don't know why I didn't hear Straight Up. I don't know.
We didn't get a lot of air.
But that's what somebody was saying, that you didn't get a lot of airplay, but the people who found you because they saw you with Emerson, and I must have, but I was too stoned to remember who the opening act was. But I was probably in the bathroom getting high when you guys were playing. But what I loved more than the music were the clothes. Snuffy has a jacket in that Chevrolet, the cover that you guys do of ZZ Top Chevrolet, I have listened to it at least 100 times, and I actually I like your version better, and I love ZZ Top.
Sorry, Billy.
I'm sorry, and I love ZZ Top, and I love everything they've done, and I like their version of it a lot, but your version is so rock, and that it's. Can you play a little of it?
It's not an acoustic guitar thing, but
no, it's not, but.
that's about all I remember.
That song just rocks so hard. But your jacket in the video, I want that
Was
shit.
it white or black?
No, it was black. But your whole...
I had 2 outfits.
He was like a
White and
skinny malink, and he looked like he was 6'10", because he was all legs, and he was wearing these skinny little pants, and this little leather jacket with long hair and just
Wow, you
rocking
really loved
it.
it, Vince.
I'm telling you, I've seen it like 100 times. I love this video. Harry's like, stop playing that already, please, Ma. I keep playing. It's pretty rocking. And yeah, your clothes, you wearing jumpsuits and spandex.
Spandex, yeah, the whole work. Sure.
And then from what I understand, you were taking it all off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
you
used
like to
to
get
do that.
naked. So what's that about?
I don't know what that's about.
But you
That's
didn't do it on
about, I
stage,
would
right?
get drunk. I wouldn't do it on stage. No,
Maybe
I
you
would
got
get drunk
overheated.
and we would.
You know, got overheated.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, you know, it always happened in a hotel somewhere. Sometimes I remember one time when I was doing the vocals
Yeah.
to the first Stray Dog record. I had them build me a little box out in the middle of Olympic Studios, and I took off all my clothes and sang the lead vocals. You know, so I don't know why. I did
Wait,
that.
you built a box? You went inside the box?
Yeah, we built a box out of sound.
So that you could be naked inside while you sang?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Mick Jagger could come in. I mean, Zeppelin and Stones, all those guys were always working there, and we were in the big room. You didn't want to do that, but I thought it would get to the core of the issue, I guess. I don't know. That's crazy. That's drunk.
Okay, so how did that stop for you? What, because you've been sober 36 years. That's a long time. It wasn't Stray Dog time that you got sober. Oh wait, so what happens? So how does Stray Dog break up? What happens there?
Stray Dog broke up. We were on tour with Dave Mason. We were opening for Dave Mason in the United States.
Hi, Alvino Bennett.
Alvino! You know
I
Alvino?
love Alvino.
Alvino!
Alvino played the living room. I love Alvino.
Alvino's great. Alvino and I played together with Chaka.
Oh God.
Anyway, long story. We were playing with him. Mike Finnegan, if you know who Mike Finnegan is, was playing Hammond for
Mike
Dave
Finnegan,
Mason.
who played with Hendrix on Electric Ladyland, on Still Raining, Still Dreaming, which is, and I fawned all over him about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was playing with Dave Mason,
Okay.
and he and I were Southern boys. He's
Uh-huh.
from Oklahoma, I think. And
By the way, I love his song at the end of your documentary.
What a Life.
What a Life.
Oh,
What a
it's a
great
great
song that is. Wow. Yay, Mike. Yeah.
So anyway, we had finished a gig in Detroit of all places, and all my gear had broken down. This is when we were 5-piece.
Mhm.
Because I added 2 pieces because they
What did you
were
What did you
commercial.
add? Was
We
there a
added
keyboard?
a keyboard player and another guitar player singer,
Okay.
Timmy DeLay. And so Mike and I were upstairs doing Coke and Jack Daniels
Yeah.
because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And the rest of the band, we just come from San Antonio, so the rest of the band had mezcal and tequila.
Nice.
So they were drinking mezcal and tequila downstairs.
Mhm.
So apparently, I don't remember it, but apparently I went downstairs to my room where they were all drinking and proceeded to say everybody needs to leave, but the tensions have built up between my bass player and I for so long, for 2 years now, because he was the original founder of the band and I ended up taking over. He was the founder of Aphrodite and I took over the band. That somehow in my uneloquent, is that a word?
Ineloquence?
Ineloquence?
Lack of
My
eloquence.
lack of eloquence in asking them to leave,
Mhm.
he and I got in a fight. And I woke up out of a blackout in the hospital with my face out to here.
Oh my.
And he was all beat up. And they sent me to...
Your phone's ringing?
my
You
phone.
can't answer it now.
I'm not answering
Okay.
it now.
They sent you.
They sent me, sorry. It
That's
rings in my ears, you know? You can't hear it, but it rings in my ears.
It's like dog. He has like dog ears. No, it's because he has. I'm not gonna say what.
Okay,
Okay.
let's leave that.
He's.
How do I turn this off?
I don't know.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so where was I?
You were.
We were upstairs, and I went downstairs, and Alan and I got in a fight.
And your face
And
is
we
all
ended
swollen
up-
out.
I ended up saying, listen, I've got to go back to LA and get better. So I flew back, they flew me back to LA. The band went on as a 4-piece with
Without
Dave
you?
Mason, without me,
Oh.
for about a week and a half.
Mhm.
And then I called and said, listen, okay, I'm well enough
Is
to
this
come
like
back.
at the height of Dave Mason's career? Is this like when he's
Yeah, Dave
yeah,
Mason
this is like.
was doing great.
Yeah. Wow.
Dave Mason was headlining big shows.
Yeah.
You know, Global Hall,
I love Dave
20,000
Mason.
seaters.
Yeah.
And I called and I said, listen, I'll be able to take the plane back tomorrow. Well, and they called me back and they said, if you come back, the whole band's quitting.
Wow. And was
So-
that from the drinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I'd rather the band stay together than that, and I walked away. And that was the end of Stray Dog for me. And they lasted about 6 more weeks and broke up.
Oh wow. And
Because
so.
I was the center of that
Yeah,
band
yeah.
originally. You know, it was built around me. So
So, and where do you go from there?
then I just started. I was a gunslinger. I just started.
Journeyman.
Yeah, journeyman. You know, touring with.
Who first?
I was touring with a band called Brooklyn Dreams with Donna Summer, where I would go out and play with Donna and conduct for Brooklyn Dreams. I did everything. I toured with Eric Burdon. I toured with.
So that must have been some partying days right there.
Yeah, they were. I had a band called the Walden Olson Band that was really good, from Mark Olson and from Rare Earth, and we had a great band. And,
Oh wow.
but we just couldn't get it together, you know.
Mhm.
It's between the drugs and the alcohol, it just, you know, it was a very slow downhill slide, and we just didn't have the what for to make something work. So I was gunslinging and working with Eric, and
Those must have been some partying days.
They were crazy. As a matter of fact, I had my last drink on the Eric Burdon tour.
What happened?
We were in Australia, and I in a blackout with a girl with me that I took from this club, hit and run 5 cars on the way to the hotel, and then drove through the security gates of the hotel. This is all in the documentary, by the way, if you want to see the documentary.
I've seen the documentary.
Uh,
But you
And-
guys will see the
Yeah.
you'll see the documentary.
Yeah.
and wrecked the room and came to with it beating on the door. And the next morning, my best friend, make a long story short, Michael Ruff came to me and said, "Listen, I love you too much to watch you kill yourself. When we get back to LA, don't ever call me again."
Ow.
Yeah. And I looked up to this guy like he was like my big brother. He was 10 years younger than me, but he was musically so free and
Oh,
such
wow.
a genius that I just really looked up to him like a big brother.
Mm-hmm.
So it made an impact, not enough to stop drinking. I stayed after the tour was over. 2 weeks later, I stayed for a few weeks and produced a record for some coke dealers.
Nice.
Nice. And told them I didn't drink either. You know, this whole thing started, the Eric Burdon tour. I was in and out of a program, but not
You
staying with
were
it.
going to
I
meetings.
was going to meetings, in and out of a program.
And so
but
you quit. You wouldn't drink for a day or two or something.
I wouldn't drink for sometimes 3 or 4 weeks, but
Oh.
you know, I do blow and drink NyQuil
Okay. Oh.
because it's only 25% alcohol.
Oh, nice.
You're getting into really sordid stuff here. This is all the
Ny-
stuff I don't talk about much.
Drinking NyQuil.
Drinking
Yes,
NyQuil.
that's lovely.
good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I stayed, and I ended up couldn't wait to get away from the coke dealers and get in the airport and get a drink. And I sat down in the airport, and I ordered a Stoli screwdriver, 100-proof Stoli screwdriver. And when it came, I ordered a second one, and knocked the first one back, and knocked the second one back, and ordered the third one. And halfway through the second one, I looked in the mirror, and I just said, you know, you're a mess. You really are an alcoholic. So I just figured I was going to finish drinking and go back to LA and kind of drift away and drink. It's the last drink I ever had.
How did that happen? Like you got on the plane, you didn't order a drink on the plane, clearly.
Didn't order a drink on the plane. I was just going to get sober enough because only people I was hanging out with were program people, and you know, I was in my second divorce, and you know, it was not good.
Yeah.
And it was not a good time. And I came home to my house had been cleared out. All that was left in my house was one mattress, a black and white TV, and a big fish tank with dead fish in it.
Oh God, that is so sad.
And that's what I came back to.
Ooh.
And I didn't have a drink, and then I did my last drugs on New Year's Eve.
Peg just wrote, "This is a meeting."
Ah!
It's like a share.
I'm sorry.
No. That's a good thing. I think we like meetings, don't we, Peg? I like meetings.
I like meetings.
It's the best time. Yeah, this is great.
And so I came home, and after a couple of weeks, I got a call from Eric to go back out on the road, and I had a moment of clarity and realized that I was going to have to choose music or life.
Because if you would have gone back out with Eric, you would have been drinking. Yeah.
No way around it.
Yeah.
I tried it for a year. I'd been in and out.
Oh, when you that
going
year
for
with
a
him,
year,
you were
going in and out on the road, and every time I went on the road, everybody would tell me, if you go out, you're going to drink. And generally, there was one guy who would say, you know, if you don't want to drink, you don't have to. And I go, that's my man. He understands me. And then I'd go out, and I'd be loaded by the time I got off the airplane. So it wasn't very successful. So I had to make a choice. That was
So
the
you
choice
didn't
I
go
made.
back out with Eric.
So I put my guitars in storage, got a straight job.
What kind of job?
I sold screwdrivers to farmers over the phone. It was a
You
phone
did
sale.
not.
I did.
So you went from playing 50,000 seat arenas to selling screwdrivers to
On the phone.
farmers.
Trust me, that wasn't a fun year. That wasn't a fun year.
That's-
very
that's-
humbling.
I was just
Very
going to say, that is really
But-
humbling.
The truth is, I was willing to give it up, and I got it back times 100. So
You sure did.
Yeah.
in the giving it away
That's so awesome.
and surrendering it, I got it back.
Okay, so while you're making those phone calls, you're going to meetings.
Oh yeah,
You go to meetings. You have a sponsor.
yeah, oh yeah.
You're doing the whole deal.
Same sponsor for 36 years.
I love that. Okay, so he's in the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
So you, hi there. I won't say your name, even though it's
Bill.
the name of this guy who did the whole thing. Yeah. So you're not playing. Are you playing at home? Are you noodling on your
No,
guitar?
I'm not actually. I kind of thought guitar was over.
Wow.
And then I got a call to sit in for somebody and fill in. And I got really nervous and I got a guitar out and I practiced for a couple of weeks, and it was in this little tiny nightclub down in the Marina Del Rey called the Admiral's Dinghy.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down there and I was petrified because I hadn't performed sober. And I was sure that when you get sober, everything changes.
Oh, God,
everything
yeah.
And you go, who am I? What am I? And I didn't know if when I picked up the guitar to play, if there was going to be anything there.
Wow.
Wow.
And it was terrifying. It was terrifying. And
What'd you discover?
I discovered that the music comes from somewhere else anyway.
This is making me cry now.
No.
No, it
The
is.
music comes from somewhere else, and if I allow myself to be a vessel of it, it will be there.
And did you know that right away?
No. No, I was just scared to death right away.
Mm-hmm.
But something happened in that 2-3 sets I played where I knew, no, I can feel, it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
The place I go,
Mhm.
because if I'm thinking, I'm not playing.
Right. Right.
If I'm thinking, I'm in my head and this is some scales or some bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm out of my body,
Mhm.
that's when the real music comes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been true for me my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been for me, I grew up in a real screwed up home,
Mhm.
and it was my sanctuary. Music was always my sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And it continued to be.
Mm-hmm.
And once I got sober, I found it was different, but I could get to that place. I could get to that place where music was happening.
This is an interesting conversation because there are probably people out there that might be considering getting themselves sober or not. And the conversation that I have always had with people in the arts is I'm not gonna be funny anymore. I'm not gonna be able to write anymore. I'm not gonna be able to play anymore. I won't be able to sing anymore. I was a comic and I was afraid that I wasn't funny when I was a comic, so I only stood to improve.
I bet that's
But
not true.
I only stood to improve. But the thing was that once I got straight and sober, I wrote a book. I hadn't done anything like that when I was getting high. I was talking about a lot of books. There were a lot of books. I was talking a lot of things. But what I've done creatively sober, I didn't see. You accomplished a lot when you were a big drunk. You were doing big things. I was not, but
Well, I was on the edge of big things.
well, you were in the middle of big things.
Okay.
But you've done.
That's a
but
debate,
you've
yeah.
gone on to do much greater things. So in sobriety, that.
I've been blessed. I got a whole new life.
Okay, so let's talk about how that life started to get pieced together.
Well, I can tell you a couple of things, and this I don't ever talk about, but I really feel like God took a damaged soul out of me
Mm-hmm.
and put in a fresh one.
Mm.
I have
I-
never heard anybody say that.
I started writing differently.
Mm-hmm.
My handwriting became different.
Is that so?
Yeah, and that's the only thing it's the only way I've ever been able to explain it.
Your
It was like
handwriting.
this, my handwriting changed, so many things about me changed. And I
How
really
long
believe-
sober were you when that started to happen for you?
The first year.
Wow. Wow.
The first year. I really knew there was something different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best way I can explain it.
So
It's the
what
best way I
got
can
you
explain it.
off the phone selling screwdrivers and back
That
playing?
little gig playing down in Marina Del Rey.
Okay.
And then I started, sitting in for, there was a gal named Melissa Marsha who played it.
A gal.
There was two gals.
Two
gals.
Yeah.
That played Melissa and Marsha.
Okay.
And I became on as a side man for them
Mhm.
and was making $30 a night at a place called in Burbank. I can't remember the name of it. Little club, and then
Mhm.
I started working with Michael Ruff
Mhm.
again, and he and I became friends again.
How did you mend that? Michael is the one that told me to call me in. So how did that write
Michael
itself?
knew that when I got sober and quit playing, he after 3 or 4 months he knew, and he reached out to me.
Nice.
And then, so as I started playing again, we started playing together again.
Mhm.
And I ended up in a band called Michael Ruff and Friends. It was maybe one of the finest musical groups I was ever in.
Wow.
And we used to play at a place called At My Place here in Santa Monica, 11th and Wilshire.
Wow.
But that was 2, 3, 4 years sober.
Okay.
I was starting to tour. I went out with Laura Brandigan. I was her music director. I went out with Chaka Kahn.
Okay. So Chaka Kahn, you were there at the beginning. I mean, when I Feel For You, you were there.
We broke that Feel For You record.
Okay, so that was a pretty hot time in the
Yeah.
music world. Shock
That's
kind of
right.
took them by a storm, and I've seen that Saturday Night Live footage with
Yeah.
the red tie and the red shoes, and you rocking.
You've been doing a lot of research.
but you were rocking those pleated pants,
great
and
pants,
yeah,
yeah.
those Woo, that was that '80s look
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
going on.
Okay, all right. Enough of that.
So what was that like playing in that band?
It was unbelievable. It was literally, they would play sometimes, and they would get off into such amazing things. Like we'd do a song called Night in Tunisia, and they would just start playing this. It was Jimmy Haslip on bass, and Vinny Colaiuta on drums, and Michael on keyboards, Tony Patler on synth bass. And we had 3 great backup singers, one of who's Lisa Fisher, who sings with the Stones all the time. And
Hi, Bernard Fowler. My friend Bernard plays with
Really?
sings with the Stones for 30 years. Yeah.
well, it was just an amazing band, and another guitar player named Jeff Johnson. And there would be times I just stopped playing and just listened because the music was so phenomenal. And these guys were all great jazz players, and I wasn't. I never learned, I never studied, I never went to school. These guys were the real deal.
According to Jimmy Vivino last week, by the way, he says that all music, including jazz, all American music, comes from African blues,
I believe.
West African blues, even jazz.
I believe.
So you were playing the root music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when they got sophisticated, I would stop.
So
No, I felt honored to be in that band, and Chaka gave me a lot of freedom, and she was great with me, and she never, gave me notes. She never told me what to play. She just
Nice.
said, "Go for it."
But before that, there was a little guy named Stevie Wonder that you were playing for. How did that happen?
That's a bizarre story. Actually, that was still the drinking days.
Oh.
Yeah, that was about 74, 75, 76
Oh, wow.
maybe.
Okay.
When that record came out, Sauce and Tequila.
Oh.
Stevie's engineer was my best friend. My best buddy, and we'd hang out and drink and party and all that stuff. A fellow named Gary Lossbaum, Gary-O, as he's known. And he was Stevie's engineer. So I would go down to the studio all the time when Stevie was making this record.
And he didn't even know. Sorry, Stevie.
He knew. And he called a few times, and but he would call at 2 a.m. and say, "Let's do it," because Stevie had no idea whether it was day or night or not.
Right.
He would call at like 2 a.m. and say, "Come down and put a guitar part on." Everybody else is going, "Tomorrow, man," and I'd go, "Sure." So I ended up playing on a few tracks, and the one track that made it was a song called "All Day Sucker." And at the beginning of it, he says, "Play it funky as you can, Snuffy," on the beginning of the record.
Play as funky as you can, Snuffy.
And then they gave me a platinum record. Stevie almost tried to teach me how to sing. He took a crack at it, but he realized that he was good, but he wasn't that good.
I don't know. I kind of like.
He
the
lived.
voice,
You got to
but-
understand. I lived on the first level apartment. Gary lived in the 3rd level apartment, and Stevie moved in on the 2nd floor.
Oh wow.
So we were all 3 living in the same apartment building.
Wow.
Stevie was there with, I don't know who he was living with. Maybe we won't get into that, but
That
yeah,
made
the
it
apartment
easy. That
building
made
was
it
very
easy
close
for
to the
two
studio.
in the morning.
Yeah,
Kind of play.
and I would hear him sing all the time out of
Oh.
it would come out of his window and bounce off the building next to us and come in my bedroom.
Oh.
And so I got to hear all those songs before they ever got released. And it was
Golden Lady is in my top 5 songs of all time. That And it's not a song it's not a particularly famous song of theirs,
No.
but it's.
When I heard Going Back to Saturn, I flipped out the first night I heard that. But it was an amazing record. And it was amazing.
But you never went out on tour with him.
Nope.
You just did studio work with him.
I see him every now and then. If you can get through all the guards and get Stevie, Snuffy, oh, amen, you know, he's totally cool. But you got to get through a lot of guys to get there. So I don't
Although somebody was telling me a
I've seen
story
it band
recently.
and stuff, you know.
Really? Yeah, I think he was there actually last year, and
Yeah,
I had just missed him. But somebody was saying that they were waiting at the valet for their car, and Stevie was there waiting for his car. Obviously, somebody else was going to. But and he just started chatting with him, like
He's
just
sweet.
chatting with him.
Yeah, he's a good
Yeah.
guy. Now, very drunk one night, I remember 3 a.m, getting in the car with Stevie driving.
Stop this right now! What?
He really did. He drove
That's a
the
Saturday Night Live sketch. It actually is a Saturday Night Live sketch.
car. He actually did it. And everybody's going, okay, right. No, that's too far. They were kind of guiding him. Steve was
Holy
great.
shit. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
But there was nothing going on. It was
Wow.
pitch black.
Was he drunk?
No, probably
No.
not. I don't know if Stevie drank.
Yeah,
I was so busy drinking.
Yeah. Paying attention
I
to
wasn't
anybody
worried
else?
about anybody else.
All right, so what happens after Chaka? What's happening? How do you?
With Chaka, I toured with Chaka and with Michael and all these great musicians, and we come off the road and we do Michael Ruff and Friends at my place. And on New Year's Eve, 1986, an agent saw me playing and approached me and said, "Listen, are you interested in doing guitar scores? Ry Cooder's priced himself out of the business. There's nobody really doing guitar scores. You're a great guitar player. Does that interest you?" And being an alcoholic, 5 years sober, envisioning playing Holiday Inn at age 60, playing Proud Mary, I said, sure, I'll do anything.
Had you done anything like that?
Never.
Nothing.
We didn't even know what the job was. Knew nothing about the job.
No.
But so are you a person? Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No,
this
we're
is,
just chatting away too
Well,
much here. I feel like we need
No.
to be more involved.
well.
Hi, everybody.
So let's see who you want to say hello to. Well, it's still Fred and Peg.
No,
There's
Fred.
a lot of Fred and Peg going on.
Present. Hi, Peg.
I don't know. Look at this. It's all Fred. It's all Fred.
Fred, you
Peg
got to
and Peg.
consolidate, buddy.
So Ray Shore. Okay, so
Jesse Dean.
Jesse Dean. So wait, what was I just starting to ask you?
You're starting to ask me how I got into scoring.
No, but it was. No, I was. Oh, I was gonna say. It appears to me that you're somebody that says yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I try.
Because part of the purpose of this broadcast is how did you manage to merge creativity and commerce? How did you manage to live your dreams? And the recurring thing that I'm hearing throughout your career is that whether you could or not, or knew you could or not, you were always saying yes.
Well, that's the only answer. I've done it over and over and over again because you got to take a chance. I mean, they're God shots. Somebody doesn't just walk up to you and say, "Are you interested in scoring television?" I mean, that
It's meant to be.
at 4 years sober, 4.5, I was almost 5 years sober. My birthday's January 11th, so it was 11 days before
When he says his birthday's January 11th, he's not a Capricorn. That's the sober birthday.
my sober birthday is January 11th. That's
Oh wait, I thought you said that you quit on Christmas.
I did. I quit drinking, but then I did
Oh,
drugs
hello.
on New Year's Eve. I did
Ah.
a session where the more coke I did, the worse I played. And then within about a week and a half, I'd gone through whatever drugs I had remaining. And that's when I got the call. It was January 11th when I got the call from Eric. And I had to get off the phone and go, I got to make a choice. So that's the date I picked.
I got you.
And that was the first date I came in, January 11th, 1981. That's the first meeting that I ever made.
I see.
So
Okay, so the guy asked you if you can score. How do you figure out how to do that? What do you do? How do you prepare to audition for that gig? What do you do?
I couldn't. All I could do was talk because I didn't have any music. I
So-
didn't have any way to tapes or anything. All I had were guitar solos I'd done on other records. So I just would go and meet them and talk to them. And a lot of times people would meet me because of my name. And I got close on a couple of things, just sending them guitar solos and stuff. but
But you weren't trying to write anything at home, or
no, I didn't have any film. What would I know to write? And then I went up. They called me and they said, "There's this TV show that's kind of taught to everybody in town. They want something really different. Would you go meet with them?" And I said, "Yeah." And they only met with me because they wanted to see what a Snuffy looked like. And I met with a guy named Scott Wining.
yeah.
And we talked, and I talked him out of some film. And he told me what he was looking for.
What do you mean you talked him out of some film?
I talked him out of some film for me to actually write music to.
Can you? We're going to get to it, and you have to play a few bars of that film, please.
Well,
You have to play a little of what started your career, and what is something that is iconic.
the first thing I wrote for them that really threw them, because I wrote about 4 or 5 pieces of music, and I didn't have any way to record it. So I called all my friends and said, "Will you help me record these cues and put them into film? And then if I get the show, I'll split it with you."
Okay.
Everybody turned me down except one guy. Stuart Levin said, "Come over next Thursday." And so Stuart Levin and I did the first year of the show together. And then...
So you brought him in.
Yeah, I
so
brought
it
him
was
in.
really, so he said yes, and look how well that worked out.
Yeah, that worked out for
him.
him, yeah.
Yeah.
So I did some kind of quirky stuff because I didn't play acoustic guitar, and they kind of wanted acoustic guitars.
Right, so you were
I
just
was
an
an electric guitar player.
player.
So I borrowed an acoustic guitar and started playing stuff like...
But now the whole picking thing, how did the whole picking thing happen? Because on electric guitar you're not
Well,
picking.
because it's all hammer on. And that's where...
Okay, that thing that you do that on a lot of things. It makes me crazy. That's my favorite thing that you do. You play, you know how to move that instrument to make sounds. That yeah, it's pretty good.
Sounds like you get biased here.
It's pretty good.
So,
yeah.
well, the weird thing about it is Eddie Van Halen. So there's no history to this, but Eddie Van Halen and that band Van Halen used to cover straight out songs. So I kind of stole.
Which ones?
They did. David Lee Roth recorded Tramp, the opening record, and they used to play all the stuff from the first record.
What was the beginning of Tramp? What do you say at the beginning of that?
Oh, fasten your seatbelt.
Oh yeah.
Fasten your seatbelt.
Oh, it's so rock and roll.
Anyway, so I was doing hammer-on kind of things, and I just applied that to the acoustic guitar.
So how did you write the theme?
Well, this particular piece was called "Begging for Sex."
Okay, now explain why
There was a scene. This is the show called 30 Something, and it's the very first thing I ever wrote on, and it was about a couple who had just had a baby. And, her husband was always kind of going, hey, and she was always going, leave me alone. So whenever they would start that, I would go. And I called it Begging for Sex.
I love it.
So the producers loved that.
Yeah.
And they were about to hire somebody else, and they heard the music I'd written, and we put it back into film. And they didn't call for 2 weeks. I thought, they hated it. They hated it. Turned out they just didn't listen to it. And they were about to hire somebody else. And they popped the audio cassette in, and they liked it. And then they popped the video cassette in, and they really liked it, and they called us in. So Stuart and I went in and lied to them and told them we knew how to score TV. We did.
So how'd the theme happen?
The theme happened at that time. Everybody was trying to write it. Carla Bonoff, do you remember?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I do. I saw
Carla
her.
Bonoff was
last
writing
year,
a
yeah.
theme, and all these songwriters were trying to write the theme to 30 Something because the pilot was an underground hit. Before we went on the air, everybody knew.
Oh, really?
So 30 Something really came from the Begging for Sex stuff, which was, and the theme is.
And it's him, it's Snuffy.
So that kind of stint, you know, it came from those first few cues I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And Stuart and I wrote the main title together. It's like a... Anyway, the main title turned out to be so unique and so different for television. And the show was so unique and so different that year it won the Emmy for Best Drama. And we were nominated for the main title.
One of 13 Emmy nominations.
We didn't win. They didn't give one that year.
They
didn't give an Emmy for main titles that year because they said there was nothing there that deserved an Emmy.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And the weird thing they did...
That is so bizarre.
The people at the Academy are going to shoot me for this. They just passed over our category. And we're sitting there waiting for our category. And,
what?
And they just passed over it and never said a word to us if they decided not to give one.
Ooh.
They never read our names.
Ooh.
They never announced our category.
Ooh, and that's your first.
That was my first.
Oh, that's a burn. That's not nice. But you showed them. You showed them. You showed them. Yeah, you did. Okay, so how long do you do 30-something?
I did 30-something for 5 years. After the first year.
So wait, how do you learn? So how do you learn how to score? Like, how do you know? Because I mean, you're genius. I guess that's God. I don't know what else that could be because he didn't know what you were doing. But did you study? Did you learn? How did you learn?
I just played the film and played music until something started to strike emotionally, until something started to resonate emotionally. And then I would sit down and work, okay, well, this is a good idea, but where do I go from there?
And then how would you know, like, when to bring the music in and when to not bring it in? How do you know that stuff?
Ed and Marshall, Ed's away from Marshall Hershowitz, for the 5 years brutalized me. Because they were writers. They wrote scripts. That was what they did.
Right.
And they beat me into submission to learn the arc of a scene and the arc of an episode,
How
and
do
the
you
arc of a story.
how do you learn that?
Well, for them, it was like you've got to find out, number one, what the climactic moment, what the point of the scene is.
Right.
And you never step on it. And you don't lead people by the nose. And so what we did, they taught me how to comment on the story, more like a narrator commenting on what had just happened, rather than play this big drum,
right.
rather than being on the nose and pushing the emotion over the top, comment on it. So really, I had to look at it like being another character. And they taught me how to do that. They taught me brilliantly.
Wow.
And it was, to be taught by guys who were that great and get your, that's like master class time. And they taught me so much. And yet I only knew how to do. All I knew how to do was look at film and play until something happened.
So what happened after 30-something? Where did you go from there?
I was doing 30-something, and I got a call from a guy named Neil Marlins, and he said, "We're doing this little show. It's going to air after the Super Bowl. This is the same year."
That's pretty good placement
I said,
right
"That's
there."
a good," but I didn't know that was good placement. I didn't just knew it was going to be a show.
Okay.
And I went over and met with him and saw him, and it was a show called The Wonder Years.
No.
And they asked me to do that because they liked the music to 30-something. And so I didn't do a main title for that. It was a Beatles song Joe Cocker sang. A little help from my friends. But so we did 6 episodes of The Wonder Years. That year, 30-something won the drama for Best Emmy. Wonder Years won the drama for Best Comedy, and I was doing both of them.
Wow.
I was doing them with Stuart Levin. And then Stuart and I split up over that summer. We didn't have the same motivation to work.
Okay.
And nor the same style.
Okay.
I was obsessive, compulsive, 14, 16-hour-a-day guy.
A good addict. A good drunk. It comes in handy for things.
And he wanted to work 8 hours a day. And I needed to work that hard because I knew I was going to have to work twice as long to be half as good. It's just the way it felt to me. And so we split up after that first year. We did 3 shows that year. We also did the Jerry Van Dyke show.
Oh, wow.
He came and did. And so Stuart took the Jerry Van Dyke show. I took Wonder Years, and we split 30-something for the next 5 years.
Oh, wow.
They would alternate. He'd do one episode, I'd do one episode.
Did they sound different?
Yeah, well, they did. He had all the masters. Stewart had the studio
Mhm.
and had all the masters tapes.
Mhm.
So he had a guy come in and learn how I played,
Oh.
who did a sound-alike of me.
Mhm.
But I think the problem was, and Marshall and Ed will tell you that, the problem was that they, at that first year, they learned to do a sound-alike of what we were doing that first year.
But
And
you kept growing.
I kept growing.
That's right.
And so they stayed there, and they were able to keep it in the same vein.
Mhm.
But when it came time to do other shows, I've done all of Ed and Marshall's shows on television. So, it worked.
So what happened after Wonder Years?
You know, all of a sudden I woke up and I had a couple of hit shows, and I found out they were not only going to put my name up in lights, but they're going to pay me royalties, and that was all new to me. And I said, this is going to last a couple of years, but let's work it hard, you know, because they're going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing. And that was...
That is such an addict mentality, to believe that about, have all that success and not believe in yourself still. Wow.
So I just dove in
Mhm.
and did as much as I could to learn. I just had to learn about it, and I'd had that 1 year with Stewart, and Stewart was at least familiar with studio techniques and had done some cop show once. And so I learned enough from that to build a little tiny studio, and then try, you know, get all the loans I could and buy a house and build a studio there. And I just kept waiting for the doors to fall off and the wheels to fall off, and it never did. Although I ended up at one point, I got fired from the Wonder Years.
How come?
My dear friend Bob Brush, who was running the show then,
Okay.
and I went toe to toe on the last episode of the second year, I think it was, the second season. And he was a composer.
Yeah.
And he and I had a disagreement.
Over music?
Was-
Over the music?
Over music and what I read written. And so I said, well, then you show me what you want, because I knew he was a composer. And he got frustrated and couldn't, and we ended up toe to toe. And next season I called and I said, when do we spot? And they said, sorry, we've moved on to somebody else.
Ooh.
And they hired a synclavier player to play acoustic guitar on a keyboard. And it lasted 5 episodes, and they came back to me, and my agent doubled the fee
Nice.
and bought my house. So
All right.
So
So that
turned
worked out pretty well.
So then I finished 20 years off the rest of the 7 years or whatever we did.
And then what came after that?
I don't know, just more work. More work.
Okay, so compelling. Well, and so you did
Now,
comedy
you don't want
in
me
there.
to, you don't want me to give you the...
But you did like Ellen, and you
documentary
did Roseanne, and you did a lot of half-hour
I
comedy.
did half-hour comedies, Drew Carey.
And how different is that for you? How different is that for you, scoring that as opposed to scoring an hour drama?
It was completely different.
And so how did you learn the art of that?
Trial and error. It's all trial and error.
But how would you get the gig? How'd you get the first gig doing?
How did I get any of these gigs?
You just said yes, I can do it.
Yeah, I just showed up and did the footwork. And that's really all it is. And
Show up and do the footwork.
Yeah.
That's really all
it
it is.
really is.
So okay, so The West Wing was a completely
This
different
is really
experience.
bizarre talking program.
It's good.
Well, but program.
No, it's all...
I mean, I believe that if the 12 steps and the 12 traditions were plastered everywhere across the world, it would be a much better world, and we'd all, you know. So if everybody in the world were a program, man, think if we had program in the White House, things would be a lot different.
We'll get politics.
So we're not going to go to politics. Okay, so now you're a guitar. Are you doing guitar on
I'm
all?
doing guitar on all the scores.
On
And
all the scores.
I got a show called I'll Fly Away,
Okay.
which was a story about race relations in the South in the 50s.
I don't remember that show. Who was in that show? Did it?
Sam Morrison
Oh.
was the main star.
Okay.
It was a bit of To Kill a Mockingbird in a way. It was the guys who did Northern Exposure
Okay.
did this show.
Rob Morrow. Hi, Rob.
Yeah, and they, I knew if I did another show on guitar, that I would just be,
The guitar guy.
I'd be the guy that, so
Not
I bought
that
a
that's
piano.
such a horrible
No,
thing
that's
to
not
be.
bad. It's not bad, but I wanted some range, so I bought a piano and learned how to play, and I scored
Wait a
that show
minute,
on
wait a minute.
piano.
You bought a piano and learned how to play.
I mean, I knew a little bit, realized that I'd grown up
Right, you
playing a little bit,
okay.
you know, but never school.
Did you teach yourself?
Yeah.
Ah.
How long did that take?
As much time as I had.
What was that?
Month and a half.
Wait, you taught yourself to play piano and you...
But writing is different than performing. I would never go out and attempt to perform a show on keyboards.
Okay.
It's totally different writing. Writing, you're in a protected arena, and you've only got to get to that musical thing that you like. Plus, we were blessed. I was blessed. None of my career would have happened if it weren't for computers, MIDI, all that stuff. All that happened a year before I got
at just the right time.
It just happened. The Mac SE wasn't even around yet. It was Mac Pluses.
Right,
and,
right.
And Performer, not even digital Performer. So I got to use my ability, coupled with the computers, coupled with all the technology that was just happening at that time.
Were you good with technology? Were you up
No,
on?
not particularly good.
Did
but
you had people who did that stuff for you?
No, nothing.
No?
But I had an engineer in me.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned enough because you're forced to.
Right.
Are we boring these people?
I don't think. Is anybody bored out there?
I'm not bored.
No, they're not.
I'm totally into this.
Okay,
myself.
so if you're bored out there,
If you're bored, tell me, and
tell us now
and
if
we'll
you're
let
bored.
Vicki do jokes.
People,
Put-
Christina
make-
just said it's a great show.
Make mad faces if you're bored right
Great
now,
chat.
and then I'll know that you're. No, Tina just said no. Look, see, they're sending up likes to tell you that it's a great show. So, all right.
I don't know.
So no, it's not boring, and if they're bored, they can go away.
Too much about me.
It's all
okay.
about you.
It's all about
It's all
you.
about
That's
you.
right.
No.
So okay, so
So I learned how to play piano and did I'll Fly Away predominantly on piano. The main theme was, I play it, but I can't play it on guitar, so it's a piano theme.
okay.
So the main theme was piano and.
Oh, see, I
gospel
was wrong. I
singers.
thought it was West Wing was the first time that you. That was the first time you
First
scored
time I did an
orchestra.
orchestra.
Okay, so how does that happen?
That happened because I was working with Aaron Sorkin on Sports Night.
Which, by the way, I in the documentary, I was wondering why the first time I watched the documentary, I was wondering why they showed so much of Sports Night. It was so long a clip.
Yeah.
And then I realized why they did it. Is because now, the second time I'm listening to the music, and I'm like, oh my
The
God.
whole score.
I had no idea. Like, I don't pay attention to that.
Yeah,
That's just
that's
you're
my
not
job.
Right, you're not
The
supposed
job
to pay
is you're not
attention.
supposed to. You're supposed to be into the story. I'm supposed
Right,
to.
so the first time I'm listening to the whole story and I'm going, this is really a good scene. It's
But
nice. It's
why
nice
is it
that I'm
here?
seeing Aaron's work. Why is it in Snuffy's documentary? And so the second time I'm going, oh my God, listen to the score. Listen what's happening here. Listen how he's underplaying all of this conversation. How do you learn to do that? How do you learn to do Aaron Sorkin? Oh my God!
You just.
Because that's a completely different animal.
Well, it's like 6,000 words a minute, and it's constant movement and constant.
Boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom,
yeah.
boom.
It's always a moving target, and what Aaron wanted, Aaron was a big fan of 30-something.
Wait, so how does Aaron come to you? Is it because of 30-something?
Right. He liked what I was doing. He was starting to do Sports Night. He'd done a couple of movies. He wanted to do a series. He wanted to do this little show called Sports Night, and they approached me
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Would you read the script?" And I saw the documentary. I feel like I'm telling the same story.
Well,
Anyway.
let's tell a different part of the story.
Well, Aaron sent me a script, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a really long script, so I thought it was an hour drama, and it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was a half-hour TV show, and I met with Aaron, and he just liked what I did, and he would say to me, this is frenetic, but I need it, I need you to be frenetic so that it helps me, because this place it's not, and that place it's not, and I need to. It was complicated because we had to do music and then write a theme for the show that appeared just when the show would start. So we'd have we'd have a minute-long scene where everybody's prepping to roll the show, and then right at the split second that the show starts, I would change the music and start the theme of the show.
And what was the theme of the show?
Oh, God.
Do you remember? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Yeah, you just put me on the
I'm
spot.
sorry. If you don't remember it,
It was all rock, guitar, and slide, and it wasn't an acoustic show. But
you have the little slide over there, that little fuck off bottle right there.
we're
You
not
can,
going to do that.
you can
We're not going to do that.
play a little
Okay, I'm
slide.
going to do a lot of
The
things.
slide will kill
I'm
me.
going to do a lot of things.
Oh, okay.
That's not going to be one of them.
Okay. All right.
If I had a slap bar, I would. But I need glass, so that won't work. You guys bear with us.
I
would you?
have a little
Now
shot
we're gonna
glass.
do
Will a little shot glass work?
That might work.
Ah.
A beer
Go ahead.
Where were we?
So we were talking about Aaron.
Oh, so Aaron's the great kind of person to work for. He just responds emotionally. He doesn't pick it apart. He doesn't say.
Really?
He doesn't say if it works and it moves him, then he's tickled and he's happy. I mean, when he first heard the theme to The West Wing, he had a tear in his eye.
That's one of my favorite things in the documentary, when he was saying that there were times when he didn't write a scene to get to the emotional core that he was looking for, and that the actors hadn't
Got the full bat on the ball.
and that you would then come in and then you would deliver the fucking punch. So
But that's my job. That's my job, and I've been taught by the best. I mean,
and that scene that's in the documentary where Martin Sheen is giving the knives. Oh my God, I'm bawling. I'm watching a 2-minute scene and I'm crying. It's wow, and the music is just like ripping your guts out.
But it's very subtle.
Very subtle.
The whole point was to be subtle.
I never understood anything about scoring. I mean, I never realized it was. I don't think that it's there. I don't know that it's there.
Well, you're not supposed to. That's the whole point. We're supposed to suspend disbelief, and my job is to involve you more in the story and make the story move forward. And if you're busy listening to me play a bunch of hot guitar licks, then you're not in the story.
Right.
So my job is the total opposite.
So you're being counterintuitive to what, as a rocker, as a guitarist, you would do.
Oh yeah, it's the complete opposite. But here's what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
I always played in bands.
Mm-hmm.
I was always kind of the color guy. I would play the solos or the weird chords and all that cool color stuff.
Right.
Film is the band, and I'm just in the band playing just my part. So film is the dominant song.
So
the
you're
film
one
is
of the characters
song,
in the.
and I'm just playing the color.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I really look at it. Is I'm supporting the film at all times, and and sometimes it works better than others, but.
So now how did the West Wing? How did you get into orchestration? How did that happen?
Well, Aaron told me about the West Wing, and he said, "I'm going to do this show. Would you like to do it?" And he originally wanted a guitar score for it. I said, "Yeah, man," because I love working with him. And then they started putting John Williams. They do temp music where they put, other scores.
Did they have John Williams write something specifically for it?
No, they would take the John Williams score and put it up against the scenes, and then they really liked it. So Aaron came to me and said, "Listen, this orchestral. I thought it was guitar, but this orchestral music's working great. How do you feel about? Can you do that?"
And what'd you say, Snuffy?
Yes.
Yes, you said yes.
You figured out later. You figured out later because.
So how do you go about making that happen, having never done it before?
I had a couple of months. I did a quick study, really studied Aaron Copland, really studied a friend of mine, James Horner, who was a good friend, and I quizzed him and listened to a lot of orchestral stuff and realized that.
Like what? Like what did you, do you
I
remember
was
anything?
listening to James Newton Howard scores, I was listening to a lot of James Horner.
Can you point out a show that uses an orchestral score that people might identify, oh, that's what he means? Like
Lost,
okay.
Lost used an orchestra.
Okay.
But an orchestral score is French horns as opposed to me going. It's a French horn going. It's a totally different thing. I mean, if you play the West Wing theme on a guitar, which I don't do very well, but and I will.
Okay.
I'll try.
Okay.
I don't play it ever. I played it for Mark in the documentary. But if you play it, it's really a simple little gospel melody.
How did that melody? Do you remember how it came to you? Like.
It happened in 10 minutes. I wrote that theme because other people were writing songs for the main title.
So songs.
People were writing songs. Randy Newman was writing a song for the main title of West Wing called My House or Our House, and everybody was trying to get, it was just like with 30-something. Everybody wanted a piece.
Because Sorkin already had a rep out there. So
people were already trying to get the main title.
Yeah.
And I had written
But Aaron wanted you to get it, didn't he? Because
I don't know.
well, because he already had that
We never discussed
relationship
it.
with you.
Yeah, we never discussed it. But what happened was, I wasn't even writing a main title. I was just trying to figure out what the hell I was doing with the scores.
So you could have scored it and not had the main title. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Has that happened to you?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
happened a few times.
Okay.
Well, it happened on Wonder Years. It
Okay.
was a little help from my
All right.
friends.
Okay.
So what happened was, I was writing the third episode. We had limited budget, so I had to do 3 episodes in one session with the orchestra because we could only afford so much. So I would write a whole show, part of another show, and a couple of cues for the third show.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I did the first 6 episodes. And then we never did orchestra again. It was all me performing. But the third episode had a theme in it that closed the episode when Aaron wrote for Martin to give his first televised speech from the Oval Office.
Mm-hmm.
And the theme was...
Boy, it's ripping my guts out already. Did you write it on guitar?
No, I can't play it on guitar. But I wrote it on piano. And it was for that. And Tommy Schlamme came in and went, "That's our theme."
Wow.
I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And it really, the cue happened in 10 minutes.
Jesus.
The cue just came out. And that's when the music's good, when you're really just watching it happen.
But you know what? I think that's life. It's like when things are effortless and they're in flow,
Yeah.
it's right. And when things are arduous and challenging, get out, run.
When you're thinking, stop.
Wow.
I'm
So-
going to remember all that advice, by the way.
Huh?
I'm going to remember all that advice.
So that ends up winning you your Emmy Award.
Yeah, it did.
And how long are you on the West Wing?
7 years.
7 years. So you're having these big chunks of life happening.
Yeah.
So are you playing out in clubs while this is all going
No,
on?
I quit. I quit playing. I quit playing when I started 37 Wonder Years. I didn't have time. I knew that if I didn't lock down and just focus on this, that it would go away faster than it was already going to go away. And this is already
How many years have you been doing this?
31 years.
Yeah, didn't go away so fast.
Didn't go away so fast.
Didn't go
But
away.
I've been
And you've got something right now. What are you working on now?
working on a show called SEAL Team.
Mm-hmm.
It's an action SEAL drama.
So like, what is that music like?
Yeah.
Okay, and actually one of my favorite things that you've done, I listened to the whole thing and blew my mind because I didn't particularly love the movie, but The Stand is like, oh my God.
Yeah. I need a slide bar for that. This won't work.
How about a candle?
A what?
A candle?
No. I can't do it.
Candle?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, see?
I don't know if I get my finger in that.
Oh, good job.
Anyway.
You also do all those tasty things with, I'm not a guitarist, so I don't know what they're called, but when you just pop a note and you yeah, but then you do like one at a time and you just, yeah, that kind of shit.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did you ever see a show called My So-Called Life?
Yeah.
That was the bed to that.
I love that so much.
just messing around. This is how I
So how did you start playing again? What happened?
You know, that's all happened because of Sarah. Sarah.
Okay, so let's talk about Sarah.
Okay.
What
You know about Sarah. You why don't you start that whole
Well, I know about Sarah because Sarah played in the living
Because
room
Sarah
with you, and I have to say that I did not know who she was because again, I
Really?
don't know I don't know what rock I was under. She's got 73 million fans, so I don't know where I was, but I became a fan really fast because Pete George, my good friend Pete, told me about you guys. He said you got to hear him. He sends me a YouTube link. I'm like, oh yeah, that's really good. I really like that. Okay.
You didn't listen.
I didn't really. No, I was like, oh, I was multitasking. I was doing like 6. Oh yeah, that sounds really good. Okay, let's book that. And he put me in touch with Mark, and we set it up. And I had barely listened to one track. And then, like the night before, I have to really pay attention because now I'm going to write an introduction to you guys. And so the night before, I start listening, and I'm like, you know, it's 7 hours later. I haven't stopped listening to you and Sarah. I'm like, oh my God, what are you kidding me? But still, as much as I loved what you were doing on the videos, when you guys were here and it was live and Sarah was singing from her kishkis and ripping my guts out, I mean, and I'm screaming, what? And it, right? Christina, you were here.
She's amazing.
And I'm saying this woman is one of the 5 best singers I've ever heard. She's unbelievable.
Well, the story that I met her when she was 10. I told Christina the story. But I met her when she was 10. She was singing on an episode of Providence. And she sang a Britney Spears song and a Madonna song.
How did, okay.
She was 10. She was
I'm
playing
going to have
the role.
Sarah on the show and she'll tell us the story.
She was
But
playing the role of one of those little girls that travels around little girls' beauty contests and was the entertainment. And she'd won, you know, she would walk around in boots and on the stage. And so she had to come to my studio to pre-record it. I wasn't there because I had 9 other shows going at the time.
Oh, Jesus.
It was 2002 maybe? Something like that. And I had a bunch of other shows going. So I wasn't there for the recording session, but I came back. And she waited until I got back because she wanted to get a CD and get it signed.
Aww.
So I met her then when she was 10. And she was doing stuff on Broadway. She was doing lots of stuff. But I didn't pay any attention. And I really wasn't in a position. I was so busy. I wasn't into helping anybody. And I just remember this little girl with this huge voice. 7 years later, I get a Christmas card from her. I'm doing Friday Night Lights, and she sends me a Christmas card. I saw your name on Friday Night Lights, and I just wanted to reach out to you and say hi again. And
Christina's going to move this because it's annoying her that it's in the shot. Thank you,
and
Christina.
And she sends me a Christmas carol of her singing at her high school Christmas program to a track, a big band version of Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And it just floored me.
Wow.
And she and I, that was a couple of weeks before Christmas, and she and I talked and text back and forth and sent music back and forth for 2 weeks. And then she was going to do a gig sitting in at a pizza parlor down the road from my house. And I took Glenn Ballard with me, producer, and I said, I think this is the real deal. And we went, and it was kind of a funny story. She was sitting there eating her chicken piccata, and we were sitting there, and they called her up, and she takes a bite, extra bite, because they don't want to leave the food, and walks on stage and killed 4 songs, and walked back while they're still applauding, and sat down eating. That's just Sarah. So I made a decision then to help if I could. And she and I talked about it. I said, if you want a pop career and you want to do a pop record now, I'm not the right guy. I'm really not the right person for that. But if you want a well-versed education in music and really have the time to find yourself and be an artist, I'll be there until I get you to the next level. And that's been 9 years now. Never dreamed it'd be this long, but
What a blessing.
but she's.
I'm crying here.
But
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I've been given so much that and be honest, it's been a blessing to me.
Okay,
The
so
way
that-
we got to this whole thing is,
Right. How did you
it was
start
one of the
playing?
first things I said to her is, you know, you got to front a band. Well, I don't front a band. I do. She'd done a bunch of karaoke. She'd been on Broadway, but she'd never fronted a rock and roll band.
Oh.
No, she sat in with people and that stuff, but she never had a band. And
I
said,
see.
okay, we're going to put you in front of a band. So I called my dear friends who were people from Texas and Cellar Days, and
Oh, wow.
played 2 guys that I played with since I was 18.
Oh, wow.
So it's Sarah and her grandfathers, basically. She's like 26 now. We're all
Old fakakis.
the old fakakis.
Yes.
Whatever. So I put this band together, and we started playing out. And
So
she had to
playing out
really
in LA?
step up. Playing out in LA. We used to play at a place called Cafe Cordial,
Mm-hmm.
and we did, you know, the what's the name of the place out there in Agora?
Oh, I was just there not long ago.
Yeah,
The one in Agora.
I should know that.
Bogies?
No, we played bogeys too, but
Yeah, no, not bogeys.
we did some benefits with Kev Mo. We did a benefit with Kev Mo and
Mhm.
different stuff, and she just had to step up because nobody gives a quarter. You know, we don't give a. If you're not going to go for it, then excuse me, out of my way.
Yeah.
And she really learned how to do that. And then after about three or 4 years of that, we were working on her original material, and that's where this duo kind of morphed from.
Mm-hmm.
And I started playing guitar because I was playing electric guitar with the other band.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started playing acoustic guitar with her, which I've never performed acoustic guitar ever, except I've been in the studio
Mm-hmm.
writing scores doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So we started doing this acoustic thing, and it touched people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was easy, and it put a lot of weight on her, and yet, you know, she could really develop as an artist with it. And so if we want to go, we can go to Europe and do it relatively inexpensively and get her in front of a lot more people. And she's a phenomenal artist, and she's done the world for me because it got me back into playing. And I forgot how much I loved her because I quit for 25 years.
25 years? Wow.
Do the math.
Wow.
Maybe it's
I was not
24
good
or
at
something. Yeah. Let's see, 13 plus.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's because of Sarah that I got back into playing. And what I found is that I had been missing it so much, and that was my first love.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm performing more than I have in 30 years and enjoying it more. And
Do you miss the rock and roll, electric guitar, jamming
I
out?
get enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
I get enough of that. I get plenty of that with
Where do you
Babylon
get-
Social Club. We have
Well,
a
we haven't
6-piece.
talked about that.
We have a 6-piece rock and roll band,
Mm-hmm.
Babylon Social Club. It's Sarah and her grandfathers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like everybody's at least 50s. You know, most 60s, and Sarah was 26. You know, and
You guys have anything coming up?
not right now. Our keyboard player had a nasty accident, so we're kind of on hold for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Hurt his hand. So Sarah and I really work. We go back.
So tell us what is coming up for you.
We're
You guys.
I think we've got some gigs around here locally that we're about to book. We're going to be on the East Coast in January, and we're going to be in Europe in April, and you know, so we're traveling around, and we book dates. We play here at Hotel Cafe, and
Well, when you guys are playing locally, my LA peoples, we be coming.
would you all come?
We will all
Please?
come. We will all come. Hell yeah, we'll come.
You bet.
So Snuffy, is there anything you've done a lot? You're looking at the
How
time.
did this go so long?
I know. This is what we
What
do.
do you
I
do?
know. We've been talking for 2 hours.
Are you bored? Do we see you?
No, look, there's
God.
more people now than look what they're doing to show you they're not bored. They're
Okay.
shooting up the love. So we're gonna wrap though. But is there anything that you've done so much? Is there anything that you haven't done that you aspire to still? Is there anything? Is there anything?
Yeah.
What?
I'm gonna get better
Mm-hmm.
and touch more people
Hmm.
because that's really what I love about. That's why, you know, I think the biggest gift I get back is when I can turn someone's moment around. And it's not me, it's God. It's what I get to be the vessel. But when it really, music can touch you in a way that nothing else can.
Right.
And it doesn't have to have a language, and it doesn't have to be words. It can just be emotion. And that's what I strive for, is to get purer with the emotion and less in my head and get better at that. But in that process, I want to be able to touch more people.
So when you're tapping into that, when you're playing it, where do you go? How do you tap into that? What is that in you that's coming out? Are you you're not thinking? you're not thinking. It's the absence of thought.
It's the absence of thought. The point of playing, and which I don't do as much as I should. I really should play
Don't shit
more
on
every
yourself.
day. I really should play more every day. But the point of doing that
Mm-hmm.
is not to get fancy and learn how to do all these things. The point is to become at one with your instrument so you can be fluid with the expression that comes. And that's totally different than having chops.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason you need the chops is so that you can go where your heart tells you.
So you can facilitate the.
So you can facilitate without thinking about it. Oh God, what key are we in? I don't ever think that.
Right.
And sometimes I'm in the wrong key, but it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
If it's coming from the place where music comes from, wherever you want to call it.
Do you have to? Is there something do you prepare yourself to get into? Do you pray? Do you meditate? Is there something? Is there a preparation?
I pray before every time I walk on stage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But.
But if you're going to
going
sit down to compose, like, do you listen to music when you're
No.
not when you're composing? But I mean, do you listen to music in life? Not much.
Not much.
Interesting.
Well, I have, when you work 14, 15 hours a day playing music.
Mm.
My brother used to come before he passed away. My brother used to come in he was the brilliant musician, and toward the end, he worked at a brick making factory, and he used to come into town, and he'd always say, he was an alcoholic too, and he'd always say, "Come on, let's jam." And I've just come out of 16 hours, 5 days straight, and I go, "God, Doug, no." He said, "Well, I don't come here very often. Come on, let's jam." And I go, "Doug, I don't ask you to make a brick when you come to my house."
Oh.
It was awful. I wish I'd never said that to him,
Oh.
because he died a few years later. But the truth is, I don't, unless I'm trying to create something or learn something. A lot of times there's things that Sarah wants to do that are out of my realm,
Mm-hmm.
jazz-wise or something, and I'll need to figure that out.
Who do you love to listen to? What music moves you?
Anything that's got heart.
Mm.
And if it's a bunch of chops, it doesn't touch me, I turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
I really, I don't listen to a lot of music, but when I listen to some stuff, Hendrix, I'll give you an example. Clapton, I can visualize everything he's doing. I can see as I'm hearing him play everything he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Hendrix, another planet.
Yeah.
Can't figure it out. I mean, just remarkable to me to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been gone, 40 years?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that, maybe longer. Still to this day, phenomenal to me. And anyone who's coming from a soulful place, anyone who's reaching inside and exposing their inner self. And you can't try to.
That's it with all art. It's writing. That's the writing that moves me. It's the acting that moves me. It's the music that moves me. So move me. So move us out of here and play someplace out of here. And before you do that, so we'll see you next week with George Shapiro, who is the brains and the man behind Jerry Seinfeld and Paul Reiner, and coming up is Norman Lear and Theo Panglis and all kinds of Fred Malamuth, and we have amazing people coming up on Game Changers. And have a happy Thanksgiving out there, everybody. And Snuffy, thank you so much for
You're so
doing
welcome.
this. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving.